Las Vegas was supposed to be just another chapter in the final stretch of the season. A flashy backdrop, a late-night start, lots of show. But on paper, just one more stop before the real decision. But the late-night hours exposed an uncomfortable truth. In Formula One, nothing is settled until the final inspection. Hours after the checkered flag, when everyone treated the podium as final and the drivers were already doing media, debriefs, and recovery, the FIA found something that turned the championship upside down. Mclaren, the team that seemed to have fully consolidated its technical dominance this year, fell into a trap it had always managed to avoid. While mechanics were taking down the paddock tents, engineers were packing up laptops, and photographers were leaving the podium area, the scrutineers found the detail that would flip the entire season: irregular wear on the skid block, the famous plank, the piece that guarantees the minimum ride height and keeps aerodynamic rules intact. It's a simple block of material bolted to the underside of the car, but it carries a huge responsibility. It tells the FIA if a team has gone too far chasing performance. And in Vegas, it did exactly that. It dropped Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri from the official classification as if someone had pulled the rug from under the team at the worst possible moment. This technical mistake didn't only destroy both drivers' races, it reopened the title fight in brutal fashion. Because the perfect car isn't the fastest one. It's the one that stays legal down to the very last millimeter, in every condition, on every lap, until Parc Fermé. And Mclaren, on the night that should have sealed the title, let everything slip away within a margin thinner than a hair and smaller than what the human eye can pick up on a quick glance. Before we dive into the chaos, hit subscribe. Here you don't get the watered-down summary. You get what actually shifts championships, moods, and entire careers. The things teams whisper about in the garage and hope never show up in the official documents. When you look at the championship standings today, what you see is not the result of the Vegas race itself. It's the aftermath of something that happened long after the cars crossed the line, when the FIA analyzed 4 small holes on the underside of 2 McLaren machines. These holes, which might seem irrelevant to the untrained eye, are actually the reference points the FIA uses to measure the plank's wear. And it was right there, in the area where every team tends to be the most conservative, that McLaren went beyond the limit. The numbers were tiny but devastating. Norris's plank was worn down to 0.12 millimeter below the minimum thickness. Piastri's was 0.26 millimeter under. These values sound microscopic, almost laughably small, but in Formula One they carry the weight of a championship. Ride height affects everything: downforce, tire behavior, stability, and the boundary between legal performance and illegal advantage. And the FIA doesn't care why the wear happened, only that it did. And here's the twist. This disqualification didn't just strip points from a dominant team. It resurrected Max Verstappen in the title fight with the kind of force you only see once or twice in a season. The Dutchman, who 7 races ago was considered mathematically alive but realistically out of contention, is now glued to the 2 McLaren drivers. What should have been a comfortable orange double lead has now turned into a 3-way knife fight. What makes this even more surreal is that Vegas didn't simply change the present, it reshaped the entire future of the championship. Suddenly, every scenario, every probability, every projection has shifted. What looked like McLaren's title to lose has become a statistical coin toss with a momentum curve trending aggressively toward Verstappen. That's why this video goes far beyond the surface-level headline of McLaren disqualified. We're going to break down what it really means for a car to be 1 millimeter below the limit, how that affects lap time and structural balance, why the FIA has absolutely no choice but to disqualify, and how this microscopic violation threw Verstappen straight back into the center of the title fight. The chaos isn't in the results sheet. It's in the microscopic math that dismantled an entire season's worth of planning, simulations, and precision engineering. To understand what happened, you need to remember that a modern F1 car exists inside a razor-thin window of balance between ride height and speed. Every team chases the same magical formula. The lower the car runs, the more powerful the ground effect becomes, the aerodynamic suction that glues the car to the asphalt. Lower is grip, lower is confidence, lower is free lap time. A few millimeters can mean the difference between sliding and sticking, between losing a position or overtaking with ease. But that pursuit comes at a cost. If the car runs too low, the plank, a standardized 10mm block of high-pressure laminate, begins to scrape. That plank must finish the weekend with at least 9mm, not 8.9, not almost 9. The rule is absolute. The FIA introduced it decades ago to stop teams from pushing the cars dangerously close to the track surface, and it remains one of the most unforgiving regulations on the grid. If it wears too much, the car is illegal. Full stop. Vegas was practically designed to create problems. The track surface was bumpier than expected. The temperatures swung between sessions. The weekend was disrupted by the loose manhole cover that destroyed Sainz's car, and the lack of running time forced teams to gamble with setups they hadn't validated. Add in unexpected porpoising, the vertical bouncing that violently slams the floor against the asphalt, and you have the perfect recipe for plank wear. Every team suffered to some degree, but only Mclaren crossed the limit. And in this regulation, intent doesn't matter. Neither does bad luck. Neither do explanations about disrupted sessions, extreme bumps, or miscalculations. The FIA does not interpret the rule, it measures it. If the plank is below 9mm at any of the reference holes, the disqualification is automatic. There's no gray area, no leniency, no subjective judgment. And that's exactly what happened. 2 of Norris's reference holes and 3 of Piastri's came in below the legal threshold. The team argued, explained, and provided context as any team would, but this is one of the few rules in F1 that leaves zero room for discussion. It's objective, it's binary, it's mathematical, and it's brutal. McLaren wasn't punished for intent, they were punished for millimeters. And in this sport, millimeters decide everything. Before we continue, take a breath. This championship is more unpredictable than Verstappen in a post-race interview. If you want to understand F1 without fluff or sensationalism, hit subscribe. Here we break down the technical truth of the sport, detail by detail, before it even becomes paddock chatter. So what exactly led McLaren to disqualification? 3 factors combined in a way the team didn't anticipate. A car running slightly too low, more porpoising than expected, and not enough time to adjust the setup after the chaotic sessions. Each issue alone would have been manageable, but together they pushed the plank beyond the limit. With the car oscillating more than predicted and hitting the bumps harder than simulation suggested, the skid block simply scraped excessively on the track. And the FIA confirmed all of this through repeated measurements, taken calmly and methodically, with team representatives watching every step. On a normal race weekend, this would have been a simple technical note, something that affects a team's result but not the direction of an entire season. But Vegas carried another weight because of the championship standings. Norris still leads with 390 points. Piastri has 366. Verstappen also sits at 366. The difference between them isn't just numbers, it's momentum. Verstappen is rising, he won the race with authority, and now he's fully armed to snatch the title in the final 2 rounds. The disqualification breathed life into a driver who had been practically eliminated, 104 points behind just 7 races ago. That deficit was the kind teams never expect an opponent to recover from. Yet here he is, back in the fight, because of a millimetric oversight. McLaren, a team that should have locked the championship down, accidentally unleashed the most dangerous version of Max Verstappen at the worst possible moment, giving him belief, opportunity, and a clear psychological edge heading into the decisive races. This whole incident exposes a reality teams try to hide. Modern F1 is a millimetric battlefield. Being off by 0.12 meters, less than the thickness of a human hair, can decide a world championship. And that's not a metaphor or an exaggeration. That is literally what happened in Vegas. A margin so small it's almost invisible ended up reshaping the biggest fight of the season. Inside McLaren, the mood shifted instantly. Norris, normally calm and composed even on difficult weekends, reportedly sat in silence for several minutes when the FIA's findings were confirmed. Piastri was visibly frustrated, not with the FIA, the rules are crystal clear, but with the feeling that something completely avoidable had changed the path of his entire season. Both drivers understood the magnitude of what had just happened. The team hadn't only lost points, they had reopened a title fight that was almost under control. They weren't angry at each other. They weren't pointing fingers. What they felt was something far more dangerous in a championship run. Doubt. The realization that a microscopic miscalculation had reactivated the most relentless version of Max Verstappen. Because Verstappen in a comeback arc is not like other drivers. When he senses weakness, when he smells opportunity, when the standings suddenly reopen, he changes. His confidence rises, his aggression sharpens, and his ability to capitalize on chaos becomes a weapon. This disqualification didn't just put him back in the fight, it gave him momentum. It gave him belief. And belief is something you never want to hand Verstappen in the final stretch of a season. McLaren's miscalculation wasn't just a setup error, it might have been the tipping point that turns a comfortable double lead into a double collapse. In F1, titles aren't only won through speed, they're won through precision, through control, through avoiding exactly this kind of situation. And now, with the championship shaken, every decision McLaren makes, ride height, suspension stiffness, tire strategy, even how aggressively they attack curbs, carries the weight of what happened in Vegas. Every lap from this point forward is influenced by a mistake measured in fractions of a millimeter. If you made it this far, do this. Hit subscribe before Verstappen catches you in the standings too. We're tracking everything under a microscope, literally, because in this championship, even micrometers decide races. Las Vegas didn't only flip the season, it rewired the championship's psychology. Norris is still the leader, but for the first time he feels hunted, not by one predator, but by two. Piastri, once the confident rookie-turned-contender, now carries the frustration of knowing his entire season was altered by something he couldn't control. And Verstappen? The man who was written off 7 races ago returns sharper, hungrier, and more dangerous than he has been all year. Inside McLaren, people won't say it publicly, but the fear is real. Did they just hand Verstappen the opening he needed to steal a title that was theirs? A title they had under control, a title they were managing, a title they were supposed to bring home. Qatar and Abu Dhabi are no longer 2 remaining races. They are 2 duels where every lap, every curb, every millimeter can swing the championship. Verstappen thrives in chaos. Norris thrives in rhythm. Piastri thrives in clarity. But right now, only one of them has the emotional momentum. What comes next? Will Norris shake off the pressure or crumble under it? Will Piastri rise from the blow or be swallowed by it? Will Verstappen complete the biggest comeback in modern F1 history, all because a piece of wood wore down beneath a limit no one can see with the naked eye? The only certainty is this: the championship is alive, violent, unpredictable, and everything changed in the Las Vegas night because a handful of millimeters crossed the line. Like the video, share it, and help this channel keep bringing the kind of truth that the paddock only admits behind closed doors.